we are going to be joined by Dr. Michael Kaufman. I'll tell you about him in just a moment. He's in several of our most powerful films, like Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement. Look at this headline. Obama looks to skip Senate on new UN climate deal, The Hill. It should read, Obama becomes dictator. Breitbart, McConnell, Obama's congressional bypass with UN treaty does serious damage to rule of law. Yes, it does. And now the New York Times and others are giving him political cover, saying it's no big deal to shut down more of our plants and put tracker boxes that just so happen to be in all the new cars in your car to tax you by the mile. Obama also announced last Friday that he'll be signing an executive order in the next week to end deportations of illegals. He's already opened the border up. Here's the Associated Press from Friday. Obama plots bypass around Congress on amnesty through executive fiat. I mean, that's the AP. This is bigger than Obama, even if you're a Democrat. This is about presidents becoming dictatorial. And sure, they're elected, but it's the special interest that put them in there. So it's the bureaucracy and the whole thing doing whatever it wants. So put our troops under UN control. Remember, he said that 2 years ago to the Congress. They said, you got to get authorization from us on Syria. No, I don't. I have the UN. I have NATO. That's worse than him being a dictator. He's like a stooge, a viceroy for these globalist corporate interests. Well, the man who back in the early 90s put together with the UN maps, the master map showing half the country off limits. You can just type in Dr. Michael Kaufman, UN maps. You'll see the global maps, the U.S. maps. Half the country in red off limits. Another quarter of it or so limited use. Less than 25% open use. This is Agenda 21 that I've been covering since 1997 when I made the film America Destroyed by Design. I'm not tooting my horn, but you heard it here first. I'm glad everybody else covers it now. We have a chance to beat it. The problem is now they should, tell Kaufman, oh, the UN's not going to try to take over. Oh, there's no such thing. Now it's like, oh, yeah, the UN, they tell us what to do. So Dr. Michael Kaufman joins us. He received his BS in forestry and MS in biology at Northwestern Arizona, University of Flagstaff, and his PhD in forest science, University of Idaho. He taught courses and conducted research in forest ecology and forest community dynamics for 10 years at Michigan Technological University, a leading forestry school in the Midwest. He's the president of Environmental Perspectives, Inc. He's written many books, bestsellers, about the attack on our Constitution and more. And his website is epi-us.com. And you can buy his book at americaplundered.com. We have this segment and the next to get into it. I tell you, Dr. Michael Kaufman, people watch that film 8 years ago, Endgame, that you're such a big part of, and it freaked people out at the time. Now it's all come true. I'm told by filmmakers, you name it, that film is evergreen. Truly something I'm proud of. That's why I talk about it so much. Even though I've had other films seen 50, 40 million times, this one's only been seen probably 20 million times for free online. Still, that's a big victory. The DVDs, 200,000 in stores. I mean, it's had a big effect, but you're a big part of it. We're now seeing global governance out in the open. But not just that, Obama saying his authority comes from the UN. This is beyond constitutional crisis.
Yes, it is, and it's really tragic. But you and I have been discussing this for, 15, 20 years now. It's nothing new. It's just finally starting to happen where people can see it. It's almost impossible now for people not to see it, and yet they continue to decide they're not going to pay any attention to it. It's really unbelievable. When you have a nation that is at risk as much as the United States is right now, to have people out there just willing to be blind, willing, you can't describe it any other way because it's right in their face, willing to be blind is just beyond comprehension. It's a state of delusion that I never thought I'd ever see in my lifetime.
It's as if the country is in a trance. For folks that don't know, they go, oh, let the UN run things. Explain to people what they've already done in countries they've gotten control of.
Well, there has been plenty of evidence to suggest that they have a program of ethnic cleansing, not just a little bit, to the tunes of tens of thousands of people in the past. Now, they're not doing that right now, at least not we're aware of, but the fact is that they have no compunction whatsoever. Their whole ethics program and so forth is led by nations that are literally blind to anything about talk about human ethics and so forth.
Exactly. The UN promotes NAMBLA. They're a member of the UN.
Yes. It is everything. No matter what you look at, they are a totally corrupt organization that does exactly the opposite of what most people in the United States would want to have happen.
Well, even if they were good guys, we don't need some foreign global group run by other countries carbon taxing us. I mean, imagine.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And that's a very good point, because we have a system of government that has served us very well, with very strong, at least historically, private property rights. That's disappearing now. That has given us the ability to become the wealthiest nation in human history. And and the United Nations has exactly the opposite form of governance. It's most of you in the listening audience know what that means. It means that the United Nations will control everything. It'll control every action. And of course, that's what Agenda 21 is designed to do, is to control every action that you and I and everyone else takes in this world. It gets to tell us what we can and cannot do. Specifically on every particular issue that we want to. There will be no such thing as private property rights with Agenda 21, and that is one of the characteristics of Agenda 21 that you have to know. It totally destroys private property rights, and private property rights have been studied and known to be the source of all wealth creation. You cannot create wealth for yourself and your family without private property rights. You cannot do it unless you're in a position of graft and corruption and so forth within some sort of organization. It could be private, it could be public, doesn't matter. But that's the only other way that you can legitimately create wealth, is through private property rights.
And it's what's created prosperity and invention and innovation.
Yes.
It's not even debatable, but now we see collectivism and socialism pushed everywhere by the United Nations, and now our president. I mean, back when you helped, testify to Congress and beat this stuff back in the early 90s, now they just say, hey, who needs Congress? That really shows who's running things. It really shows how dictatorial this thing really is. It's very bold. I'm really worried if Congress doesn't slap down Obama and the bureaucracy, that this is just a major precedent.
Well, one of the things that we have to do, and of course it's not going to happen in this election, probably won't happen in 2016 either, is that we have to get these people out of Congress and our state legislatures, even our county commissioners, that are progressives. These people are dangerous. They're utterly dangerous, and will destroy this nation if we allow them to continue to do what they're doing, because everything that they think of, and you can go back, and this is what my book, Plundered, goes into great detail, is to describe how this group of people, since the time of Rousseau in France, has systematically destroyed the countries in which it had power over, and is doing it in Europe today. It's doing it in France especially, because they're really over the hill. And most of your nations, like Russia or the former Soviet Union, China, and so forth, have followed this model of governance and have literally killed tens of millions of their own people, because it's so barbaric when it gets down to exactly who has the power within that form of government. And we're moving towards it very rapidly. That's exactly where Obama is taking us.
In fact, the University of Hawaii breaks down democide. 262 million people in the 20th century, non-military combatants killed by governments, 70+% of it by communists, the rest by Hitler and some other dictators. But communists killed 70+% of 262 million people. That's almost the entire population of the United States. And people like to get scared of great white sharks. They kill 5 people a year.
Yeah.
Why not be scared of the giant democide train of socialism, collectivism coming, with all these well-meaning, progressive, grassroots people having no idea what they're doing? We'll be back with Dr. Michael Kaufman and talk about, is there a way to stop this nightmare situation? I'm Alex Jones, Infowars.com.
This is Leanne McAdoo for InfoWarsLife.com. I'm here with Dr. Edward Group, master herbologist and chief formulator behind the InfoWars Life products. Dr. Group, what have you been hearing from women who've started taking Super Female Vitality?
You know, we've heard the reviews and feedback from Super Male Vitality, from emails to even excited callers on the radio. Now, the answer for women is here. A new formulation specifically designed for the female body, Super Female Vitality, delivers 10 key herbs initiatives that work synergistically to revitalize the unique biology of women.
I'm so glad that you guys made this for women. When he brought me home the bottle of Super Female, I had tons of energy, tons of motivation, a lot of drive. My husband thinks I've been in a better mood. Our relationship, all I can say is it's a lot better now.
I've just started taking Super Female Vitality from InfoWarsLife.com. Supplies are limited, so secure yours today at InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com, or dial 1-888-253-3139.
We're occupied just like the Vichy French, who sold out to the Nazis. We really are occupied by this corporate monopoly capitalist system that uses socialism to control the grassroots, or oligarchical collectivism. You go back to the Jacobins in France and the French Revolution, they were criminal plunderers who wrote up the plan to carry this out, and that's what Dr. Michael Kaufman is an expert on. The writings and government documents he's dug up. It's in Endgame 2.0 that was released only to prisonplanet.tv. It's there today. All the documents about how they would promote homosexuality to end the family and to break down society. It's not that I'm against, quote, gay people or that I want to go hurt them or something. It's that, and that there's been people like that forever. It's that the government is confusing genders on purpose. It is a program. And that's just one example. There's so many that he covers in Endgame 2.0 that people should go watch at prisonplanet.tv. Dr. Michael Kaufman, we got about 10 minutes in this segment. I want to speak some about what you were just getting into, and then specifically about Obama saying he'll sign on to a treaty without Congress, which is just unprecedented. But I talk about statistically, honeybees, kill 200 people a year, but people aren't really afraid of them. But great white sharks kill 5 people a year. Worldwide, it's a couple hundred honeybees. People get killed by those every year here in the U.S. alone. But then you got something like government. What is it, 10,000 more people drowned a year or something? But you don't see TSA out there with checkpoints to get in the lake. But it kills a lot more than terrorists do. My point is, media decides what to hype up and what to be afraid of. And statistically, government is the #1 unnatural form of death. And it's collectivist governments that do it. Free market ones just pour out money and success and upward mobility and freedom. The problem is then those societies become decadent, and government by conquest, government by corruption ends up setting in. How do you educate a youth about this? How do you stop a political class that just wants to expand their empire? How do you reverse this? Because more and more you can see they're not going to stop, and they also hate anyone that's free market and anyone who's self-made. There's also an instinct of these collectivists to not just take over, but to then persecute those of us that are producers, which then always hastens the collapse as well. This is just like some type of mental illness. Dr. Michael Kaufman.
It is. In fact, psychiatrists have done studies on this for over 100 years and have come to that very conclusion. It's a psychological or pathological problem. They cannot connect reality. They live in their own dream world, and as a consequence, the policies that they formulate are totally wrong. It's based on emotion, not rationale. Now, we need emotion in our lives. I'm not saying that. But you've got to make a decision first on reason and then temper it with emotion. And all they do is do emotion. They don't care about reason. It could be outer space, and they're disconnected from reality in total. This is what the studies have shown over 100 years now. Now, how do we change this? Because they have penetrated our public school systems, our Congress, it doesn't matter what major institutions, they basically have taken over those institutions in this country almost totally now. Not quite, but almost totally. With Common Core, they're going to take over the education system totally. And what we're seeing, of course, we have a lot of grassroots out there that are fighting this and gradually beating back Common Core. And I think by this time next year, we're going to be pleasantly pleased because these people, I've done some in Common Core, but I have to admit, these people really, really have been effective in exposing the underbelly of Common Core and how bad it truly is. And hopefully, by that process, we will be able to gradually take back our educational system. There have been textbooks that have been rejected now because of revisionism and so forth of history. And if we can begin to start training our kids while they're in elementary school and then while they're in college and so forth to the true foundational principles of a good liberal education, then I think we can begin to take it. But it's going to take decades to do that. We have a problem right now. Can we even survive the next 2 years of Obama? That's the question. And the only way that I can see that we could perhaps stop this is if we elected people in Congress, in the Senate, state legislatures, all the way down to your local level that have some degree of reason behind them. They're not often this pie and sky stuff that progressives really get involved in. And I don't see that happening because they have such a huge propaganda machine. However, programs like you and others around the country and so forth are gradually making people aware of how bad this is. It's just a matter of timing. Can we do it, especially by the 2016 election?
Well, it's like Michael Savage has properly said, and I know he's researched, but there are major psychological studies on the mind of communists or socialists, and they really are mentally ill.
They are.
That is the camp follower, though. The higher-up ones know it's just a program of criminality. Our biggest problem is the Republican leadership is bought and sold by the very same corporate interests that are using collectivism as a model. Where is Boehner on Obama about to sign executive orders to legalize all the illegals? Where is Boehner? Where are all these people on Obama saying he'll just sign an order carbon taxing everybody? And the DOT is coming out saying, oh, yeah, there's little tracker boxes in your car. We're going to start taxing you. I mean, everything we warn people about in Endgame, you talk about that in the film, is now here. And so they've gone from denial to just doing it. Why do you think they're doing that? Is it because they're behind schedule or they just don't care? I mean, used to they would try to cover this stuff up. Now they just do it.
One of the things that I'm very concerned about, Alex, and I know you are too, is that they're getting very close to the point where they're pulling the plug. And there's going to be, well, obviously, we are economically bankrupt in this country as it is right now. It would take very little to put us in a real tailspin. And I think that's what they're planning on doing. And they don't care anymore. They literally don't care. We see a president that just doesn't care. He'll go off golfing when the world is burning around him because he knows everything is going to come crashing down.
Shutting down a third of the coal power plants, doubling energy prices will put us into a total depression. And they know it. Cloward and Piven, you're right. They are going to wreck us. They're committed. They're doing it.
They're doing it right now. And you have Europe as the classic example why green energy does not work. It's destroying Europe right now. And the socialists here in this country, the socialists still in Europe, they don't care. They still want to do the same program. They're convinced that green energy is going to work. I don't know how they're going to do it, wave a magic wand or whatever, because it never could work. I mean, we forecast way in advance of them actually doing it, that it would never work.
Wow.
You can't not do it.
Listen, Dr. Kaufman, we're out of time. Come back for a full hour on the weekday show soon. EPI-US.com. Dr. Michael Kaufman, Environmental Perspectives, Inc., President. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
That's an amazing American right there. He's made a lot of big changes in the fight against the tyrants. One man can make a difference, and so can you. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.